friends, Amanda here. Welcome back to Handmade, not Hallmark. Today I've got this fun shaker card featuring some cute products from Lawn Fawn. This is a recreation of a card I did a few years ago. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. I'm going to be using the Home for the Holidays little mini set from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to recreate a card that I made several years ago, but I'm going to turn it into a shaker card this time. And I've just used some of my stitched rectangle dies to create some frames and some areas to do some ink blending. I'm just going to do a nice simple inked sky. I probably didn't have to use both of these colors. I'm using Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide inks to create my nice sky. I'm going to add some snowflakes to this. Again, this is really subtle. You don't see much of this ink blending, but I wanted to add some sky here just to kind of add, to the scene that I'm creating. Again, this is a card that I created several years ago, and I just love the little design, and I always wanted to create it into a shaker, and I was so nervous about doing shakers back then that I didn't make it, so I really wanted to try to recreate this. This is a really fun, simple scene. I think that you could switch out some of the imagery and do a whole bunch of these, and I think these would be fun ideas for kids cards, or for classmates, those sorts of things. I think would be a lot of fun. Next, I'm going in with some white gouache. I'm going to add some snowflake splatter. Again, you don't see a ton of this, but again, I just wanted to add to the scene, and I think it looks really, really cute. Once I have all of the splattering done to where I'm happy with it, I'm going to set it off to the side to completely dry, because I have a habit of messing around with things, or I smudge it and it totally ruins all of my snowflakes. So again, I'm just going to set this off to the side to dry, clean off my waffle flower stencil mat, and I'm going to get right into my coloring. There's not a lot of coloring here. I am just coloring in the little car and the presents. Really quick coloring with my Copic markers. I'm going to be using some Copic friendly ink. Copic friendly ink on Copic friendly cardstock. Again, this is super quick coloring, nothing too complicated or something that I may not have done in the past. Some of my favorite color combinations, and I think this card is super, super cute. And when I'm all done with the coloring, we'll come back and finish up the card together. Once I was finished with all the coloring, I used the coordinating dies to cut out these sweet images. Now I'm going to go in and add some details. I'm using my favorite white Jelly Roll pen in a number 10 and going around and adding some highlight details. Again, this is a completely optional step. You do not have to do this. It's just something that I personally like to do. I think it turned out really cute. I think this car is super sweet. I know they came out with a die that was similar to this. I think it might have been last year, a year before, and it is super cute too. So this design could be used with that die set as well to create the same card design idea, which I think would be really, really fun as well. You could turn it into a nice full-size scene with a little car and presents. I think it would be really sweet. Going to add in a couple of details to the presents. Then I'm going to go in with my Wink of Stella glitter brush pen and add some sparkle to the gifts and to the car windows. I think it really makes it look so cute. And I love this little car. This was one of my very first sets I got from Lawn Fawn. I just loved it so, so much. I'm going to attach the presents to the top of the car. The stamp set also comes with a little tree, so if you wanted to make it like they went out and got their tree, I think would be really nice as well. Just going to use my reverse tweezers to help hold that in place. while I work on the rest of my card. So I've got some Judikins embossable window plastic here. You could use any window plastic or acetate sheets that you have, but I'm going to use these, and I'm going to use some score tape to attach this to my little frame. And I do believe these are the Lawn Fawn double stitched frames. I'll make sure everything that I used is listed in the description box below. I'm just going to go around and add that adhesive so that I can create my shaker element. Again, I created this card several years ago, and I decided that I wanted to try to do it again, but turn it into a shaker, which I always thought was a really fun idea with this design. With the nice thick frame, you could easily make a really fun shaker. Get all that adhesive pulled away. I'm going to get my acetate lined up, so I do apologize if my head gets in the way at any point. And there is our fun little window. And here's our card base. You can kind of see what we're going for here. And then we're going to get our little background piece that's nice and dried. And the easiest way I found to get everything kind of lined up is I kind of like eyeballed it a little bit. Excuse me. Use some adhesive, liquid adhesive. I like using liquid adhesive because I have a little bit of wiggle room before I get everything in place. So if it messes up at all, it's not permanently adhered and I can kind of get it wiggled in place. So I got that pressed into place, and then I can work on the rest of my little background. I just used the tree border die from Lawn Fawn and a couple of stitched hillsides to create my little hills. And I'm just going to adhere all of these things flat as well. That way that when my shaker material is in there, it doesn't get kind of stuck on anything in the background. This card didn't take me very long to create. Because I already knew the design idea because I had created it in the past. And so I kind of knew exactly how I needed to assemble everything. It was just getting the shaker portion together. So all in all, this card with the coloring, which didn't take very long either, maybe 10 minutes, I would say this card took me half an hour to create, which is kind of great because when you're in a rush to get cards created, or you need some last minute ideas, you could totally create this card without being a shaker in a good amount of time. I'm going to adhere my little card down nice and flat, again, so no shaker pieces get stuck behind it. And I'm also going to stamp down the 3 little hearts that are supposed to come out of the exhaust down with some Copic friendly ink. Excuse me, watch my head. And I'm going to color those in with my Copic markers real quick, just to add another little pop of red and to show the love that's coming from this card. I think it's super sweet. I love these little quirky things that Lawn Fawn adds to their cards. It makes them so fun and unique. I haven't used Lawn Fawn in such a long time that whenever I go through my stash and I find it, I'm always like, oh, I love this set, and oh, I wish I could use this one. So I've used quite a few Lawn Fawn items this year, which I'm super glad that I kind of got back on the bandwagon with that because I forgot how absolutely adorable their images are. Next, I'm going to line up my window frame here so that I can stamp the greeting. This is the same greeting that comes from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it down using some cotton white Stazon ink. I've recently discovered using this ink, and I do love it. I think it's a really fun kind of way to add a greeting, or if you have something kind of like this plastic here you need to stamp on, that it's a nice alternative to using the heat embossing. Yes, this is a embossing acetate that you can emboss on it. I've always had trouble doing that. I don't know if my heat gun is too hot or what I'm doing wrong with it, but every time that I try to heat emboss on the plastic, it gets warped really bad. So using the Stazon is a really great alternative, and I think it has a nice effect and it looks really great. So again, I'm just using that Stazon ink. Going to stamp that down on the plastic, and again, it's going to stick a little bit, so just be aware of that when you peel it away. And I love how it turned out. The S on the end got a little wonky, but I wasn't super concerned about that. I love the way that it looks. And then I immediately cleaned off my stamp because it is a permanent ink and I didn't want it to ruin my stamp. Next, I'm going to add in my shaker bits here. I'm going to use some of my favorite snowflakes here. Hindsight, I wouldn't have used these just because they were so thick that whenever they did kind of move around, they got stuck in some certain places. So if I was to create this card again, I wouldn't use these clay embellishments. I would just stick with the nice flat sequins, just because of the dimension on those. I had struggled a little bit with getting them to lay flat, so I had to off camera peel my card apart a little bit to unstick one of the snowflakes. So that's why my card looks a little dinged up on the corners near at the end. But again, just use the flat shakers. Don't use anything like thick embellishment unless you add a lot of foam tape. You kind of double it up, then you could probably get away with some of the heavier embellishments. I'm using some 3M foam tape here, and I do have it doubled on this one, but again, I think just those shakers weren't the good pieces to use on this. And this, I cut it so that it fits my frame here. I love these wider frames. I love creating my own frames with some of my own dies. That's why I love nesting dies. I think they're a great investment because you can do so many things with them. But these framed ones that have the stitching already on them, I think are a really great option as well. And I apologize if my head gets in the way at any point. I was just making sure that you couldn't see the foam adhesive through my window. Once I had all my foam adhesive on, I took my anti-static powder tool and I went around the inside of my little frame here just to kind of help prevent the sequins from sticking. They do stick a little bit, especially like the stars and those sorts of things, but again, I'm not super concerned about it, and I do apologize about my big giant head getting in the way. I was just trying to make sure I got this perfectly lined up over top of my little scene here. And that finishes up this card for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this fun recreation of a card I made several years ago and turning it into a shaker. I had a lot of fun creating it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the like button. It lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my content. And also consider hitting the subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos here at my YouTube channel. I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye! On screen, I've got a few videos that I think you'll enjoy. Consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos at my YouTube channel.